And a big happy Friday to you as we get set for another edition of lcpioneers.com Live. As we broadcast to you on this Friday, our second week of shows, wrapping things up, talking to you about Lewis and Clark athletics, what's going on with our student athletes, coaches, and in the Lewis and Clark community throughout Portland and on campus, and now beyond, as everyone has moved off of campus with the changes to the way that we live right now because of coronavirus and COVID-19. And we talked to some of our guests that you can find also online at lcpioneers.com/live and lcpioneers.com. We put up our playlist of past interviews as well. I am Ryan Goff, and I'm the play-by-play voice, Director of Athletic Communications for Lewis and Clark Athletics. If you're not familiar, we are located in Portland, Oregon, and we are a member of the NCAA Division III's Northwest Conference. So we compete with schools in Northwest Oregon, throughout the state of Washington, and then opportunities throughout the entire U.S., certainly for our student athletes to compete. We also have many students and student athletes who participate in our overseas study programs, so opportunities throughout the world as well. We want you to get connected with us on Instagram and Twitter, LC Pioneers, our handle on both. You can also email us, sports@lclark.edu, and in the comments below, our Facebook Live video. As I mentioned, this is our second week of shows. We're doing a daily show Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Takes about 20-25 minutes to get you connected with student athletes, coaches, and folks in the community. And our guest today that we'll talk to in just a moment is Morgan Taylor. She is a senior for Lewis and Clark track and field. And we thought it was right to have her on because she was training for the Northwest Conference Championships, the heptathlon, which was scheduled to be on Monday and Tuesday next week. And because of COVID-19, Northwest Conference canceling all of spring sports, there was no outdoor track and field season. And as I thought about a lot of the athletes who are affected at Lewis and Clark, Morgan was someone who came to the top of my mind. I feel like if anyone could talk to us about disappointment, the amount of work that goes into becoming a multi-event student athlete, as far as I understand it, is pretty rigorous. And so to not be able to have a chance to compete in that event, I'm sure was tough. So we'll talk to her about that coming up momentarily. Also hear what she's on to after Lewis and Clark, because this was her senior year, wrapping up classes online and getting set for commencement coming up in May. Uh, you can see our past interviews. We had Maddie Lee on earlier, Rocky Campbell this week as well. Yesterday, Kayla Valdez and Mel Ho'omanavanui talking about luau. Next week, we're going to have focused on D3 week because we have that annual event coming up. We're going to be celebrating that uh, remotely, virtually, if you will, instead of having some of the on-campus events that we usually do. But Emily Skaggs and Jordan Gonzalez of our Student Athlete Advisory Committee will join us early in the week, and then Christina Williams, who's the head women's basketball coach now for Lewis and Clark, a former Lewis and Clark student athlete and All-American. She can definitely talk about the Division III experience. And then Alicia Calejo Black is set to join us. She's a volleyball alumnus who now is a medical student at the University of California, San Diego, and really want to talk to her about two things: D3 week and why she chose D3, how she went from Lewis and Clark to a medical profession, but also just to have a firsthand look on how healthcare workers and healthcare personnel are being affected by what's going on with coronavirus and all the steps to help us stay safe. Last but not least, lcpioneers.com is the place to go. You can check out our campus tour video. There is our interview yesterday with Kayla and Mel that you can watch back, and also check out lcpioneers.com/YLC, Lewis and Clark's hub for how you can stay connected with us even though we are not on campus. You can take virtual visits, do some Q&As and such with folks from admissions and existing students, current students at Lewis and Clark as well. That's at lcpioneers.com/YLC. But let's bring her in. She is Morgan Taylor, class of 2020. She'll be graduating in May, and a Lewis and Clark women's track and field student athlete. Morgan joining us from Colorado. It's great to have you on. How is your Friday going?
Pretty good. Just finished up class a few minutes ago. Online, of
And,
course.
and the adjustment too. I mean, we've asked this a lot. We had Kayla yesterday, who's in Hawaii, so she's taking 6 a.m. classes right now. How have you made the transition to remote learning?
Um, it hasn't been too bad for me. All of my classes are still at the time. I'm in Denver, so it's only 1 hour, and the other way. So my heart goes out to everyone in Hawaii, like taking classes earlier. Like uh, everything is going smoothly for me, I guess. Not as drastic changes. Like probably the worst part is just being at home and like trying to work at home, like and not have like a library or a quiet space to work.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely been a change for all of us. I mean, I'm in my bedroom in Salem, Oregon, of all places, and missed my office a lot today because the kids are over there screaming and trying to get everyone wrangled up. So that adjustment has got to be difficult. Well, the reason that we're having you here is, again, I talked about this in the opening. If I could think of anyone who put in a tremendous amount of work and then to not have any chance to compete in the outdoor season at all had to be tremendously difficult. If you could help us get an idea of what it takes to become a heptathlete and all the work that you have to put in to have success across multiple events, can you walk us through that kind of training and your journey from when you first entered that realm as a heptathlete to where you are senior year?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Heptathlon and decathlon aren't normally events offered in high school, so most people don't really get that experience until they come to college. So I was lucky and I got to do one heptathlon before I came to college, but that was the only time I hurdled. That was the only time I threw shot put. I touched a javelin probably 3 times, and it was the 3 throws I took at that one heptathlon I did. So it's just a lot of new things you have to learn. Um, so coming into college, there's a huge like training curve of like learning all these new events while trying to maintain the events that you actually know. So for me, like hurdles, not the best thing in the world. So like if you like watch me at practice, you'd probably just think I was a hurdler because that's like all I do. Um, but then like building those up, it takes several years. Like the first 2 years at Lewis and Clark, I was like running cross country for the school, like doing other things, and the events like didn't quite click. And then my junior year, uh, things started clicking, and I was like getting it together and like starting to be able to like perform in all 7 of the events. And I think that continued through my senior year and like finally getting everything to come together. So it's really devastating to not be able to see where that came. Like just seeing the difference between if we had one outdoor meet, like seeing how I performed in that compared to even last year. Last year when I was like really like getting comfortable with everything. Um, so it's just devastating. Like always being the last one on the track because I have to do my normal hurdle workouts and then everyone goes inside to lift and then I have to go high jump and long jump and then go and lift and like everyone's gone by then. So it's just like it's devastating.
I can absolutely imagine. I mean, this is a very complex event set, and to watch you have to do such a myriad of different things was fascinating as someone who didn't have a ton of track and field background myself. I had always been used to ball sports, to get to see the amount of work that you put in, and then as you describe it, all the varying training that you have to do, and a lot of it's kind of by yourself without a lot of other folks doing that same event. She's Morgan Taylor. She's joining us from Colorado, our guest on lcpioneers.com live, talking about heptathlon. When did you find out that the rest of the spring season wasn't going to happen? And I guess if you can, just give us an idea of that moment you realized that you weren't going to get to compete in heptathlon.
Um, well, that whole week, I think classes moved online on a Thursday. Like we had a meet that Saturday before. Um, I was thinking about it in school in terms of schoolwork. Like I felt like school will probably move online soon, but I think I kind of like pushed the track part out of my mind. Like I was still waiting for our meet itinerary for that next Saturday meet um, that we normally get on Wednesday, and that didn't come. and we saw other schools closing down. And then Thursday, we got that email about classes going online. Then we had the track meeting later that day, and that our season had been suspended. So there's still a glimmer of hope there. And then either by the end of that week or early next week, it had been completely canceled. Like everything was moving so quick in those weeks, and it still is. So it was hard to process, and also still in my head, I was like, don't really know what's going on. Like, how will the NCAA like adjust? Like, will they let seniors compete next year? Like, it was a lot of like unknown. So I just tried to keep it cool and like just hope for the best, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the mentality that a lot of folks had, even just when we heard the season was postponed, hoping that maybe we would still see some sort of competition by the end of April, or mid-April at the worst, right? Now, that's obviously not the case. When you think back to your student athlete portion of your career, the competitive career, what are you most proud of when it comes to your experience with the track and field program?
Um, I think especially my junior and senior year, just being able to like inspire the rest of my teammates. Like I feel like that's a comment I get the most, which is like the best compliment that I could get. Like especially the transition from my freshman and sophomore year. Like there's a lot of like frustration and like just that huge learning curve. Like a lot of like apathy in track, and then transitioning to being an upperclassman and being able to be like a role model for the rest of the team. And since I have like such the reach, like I get to work out with everyone at some point or compete with everyone because I do all the events. Like it's great that some of my teammates like looked up to me.
Morgan Taylor joining us on lcpioneers.com live, talking about the track and field season and in her 4 years with Lewis and Clark. At the start of last track and field season, Aaron Campbell was named the interim head coach, now the permanent head coach of the program. How has he had an impact on the track and field program from your perspective?
Um, to me, Aaron is the the best track coach in the world, no question. Um, like he's only brought great things. Like his energy, like his coaching style, like the care he puts into each athlete is like really something special. And like it really transformed the track team. Like when I got here, uh, and just recruiting wise, there was like 4 boys on the team. Like it didn't even like feel like a track team, and now it's like really transformed into like a full robust program, and I think it'll like keep going in that direction.
Uh, Best story that you have as a student athlete and with that program. What's one that you can share with us that you might think we get a kick out of?
Oh God. Well, we have game day. This is kind of spread over several years, a trend. Um, our coach Campbell likes to partake in game day, and we basically play ultimate frisbee, but we throw a soccer ball. And when he's losing, he'll be the one that has the ball, and his team will be losing, and so he'll be like, okay, next point wins. So he makes sure like his team has the ball, so that he he wins no matter the situation.
Oh, Aaron. Yeah, he's had as much work as anyone. We look forward to having him on in the coming weeks, just because he was also a graduate student at Lewis and Clark while adjusting to being the interim head coach after being the assistant coach of the program. But he's definitely a great guy to have on our staff, and it's great to hear that he's still competitive at this stage in his life. What's your major And from that, what do you foresee yourself doing post graduation?
I'm majoring in physics and math, and not technically computer science, but I have enough credits, so I'm gonna say math, computer science. Um, I it's a little disappointing with the current situation, looking at jobs right now, but um, software development, robotics, something in that sort of realm are things I'm looking at. Um, Having the two majors is nice because I have like a nice spread of opportunities of fields I can go into. So I'm probably should be looking more, but I'm just keeping my eye out for um, any opportunities that look promising.
Well, of course, people know where to find you if they're Lewis and Clark
Yeah.
connected. You can find her through us. I'm curious. I asked you that best story from being a competitive student athlete from the academic side, or just any of your coursework. When you think of like that milestone or that highlight from your time on Palatine Hill, what stands out to you?
Probably this past year, I've been working with a couple other students. Um, for our advanced lab for physics, we were building a robot that it was like shaped like a bug, so like a six-legged robot, and pretty devastating to not be able to continue to work on that because we had our first prototype in the first semester. But I think that's definitely been the highlight. It's just different than like any of the other coursework I've done, and it was really fun to like work with these two other like talented physics students and like make something. Like we're very like theory focused, so to be able to build something and like make it completely from scratch was like we spent an ungodly amount of time on it last semester, but like I enjoyed like every minute of it.
That's really cool. When we get done, you should, if you have any photos or anything like that, we'll be sure to share it in the Twitter thread too, so that people can see what you worked on. Um, this is a little bit outside of what we had been talking about, but one thing that I have asked all of our student athletes to do numerous times is a questionnaire just to kind of get a feel for some things that you've done over the summer. And this goes back, I think, to the first one I sent out when you might have been coming back for your sophomore year. You said that you had visited your birthplace in the Caribbean. Tell us more about that.
Um, should probably get my mom because I don't know much about it, but I'm from St. Thomas, which is in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Um, my mom was in college at Temple University. To my knowledge, not really feeling it, so she just packed up and moved to the Caribbean. Um, and then she had my brother, and then me, and then I was the one that roomed it, and we had to move because it's pretty expensive. But we go back there pretty frequently, and it's such a tight knit community. Like last time we went, my mom like everywhere we go, we have to stop, and my mom has to talk and be like, "Oh, I thought you moved to the north side of the island," and she's like, "I've been in Colorado for 15 years, but so it's always fun going back there."
Well, a lot of fun to have you talk to us. I mean, I'm trying to find the positives in all of what's going on. One of the things that I've enjoyed the most is getting a chance to have more time to talk to student athletes because that's one thing that I haven't had. And to be able to hear some of your stories today, and to know how hard you worked for the heptathlon. I'm sorry that you don't get to compete, but we certainly appreciate you talking to us today.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Morgan Taylor. She is senior for Lewis and Clark Track and Field, joining us on lcpioneers.com live. I will promise to share any photos of the robot if she sends them to me on our Twitter handle at lcpioneers. So I appreciate her talking to us and appreciate you joining us as you might have all week. If you did miss any of our shows, go to lcpioneers.com/live and you can see our past videos there. Again, we had Rocky Campbell from the Career Center earlier this week, Kayla Valdez and Melho Omanavanui talking about the Hawaii Club Luau, which is a marquee event on the Lewis and Clark College campus. It would have happened last weekend. We also had a chance to talk to Maddie Lee, a softball alumnus class of 2015, who's now a beat writer for the NBA at the Oklahoma newspaper. And then next week, we continue our interviews, again, trying to have it broad, current student athletes, alumni, people from the Lewis and Clark College community, and coaches to kind of give you a chance to stay in touch with everything that we have going on. So we'll start our week on Tuesday with Emily Skaggs of swimming, Jordan Gonzalez on Wednesday from baseball. Both are members of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. We'll talk about D3 week coming up next week. Jordan also recently named a Goldwater Scholar, so we'll talk to him about that academic achievement. Christina Williams, the former Lewis and Clark women's basketball All-American, now head coach of the program, joins us on Thursday. And then Alicia Calejo Black, who's a medical student now at the University of California, San Diego, former volleyball student athlete for Lewis and Clark, will join us on Friday. Until then, we invite you to keep in touch with us, LC Pioneers, as we mentioned, on Twitter and Instagram. Also in the comments below our Facebook Live videos and via email, sports@lclark.edu. We'll talk to you again on Tuesday for more lcpioneers.com live. I'm Ryan Goff. Thanks for having fun with us. We'll talk to you again soon, and big thanks again to Morgan Taylor for joining us to talk to us about what's going on with her after leaving Palatine Hill and heading home. And we'll look forward to seeing more stories soon. Until then, goodbye, everybody.
Hi, I'm Nick Lombardi. Something I've learned at Winterim this year is how to communicate a vision.
My biggest takeaway from Winterim is probably the networking. Getting to talk to everybody, connect with people for the future is one of the most valuable things, and I did Winterim last year, came back for more this year.
I think a way in which my liberal arts education has really helped me and my group formulate our ideas is that concept of critical thinking and having many different backgrounds, me being an econ major and my two group mates being chemistry majors. We really get that well-rounded background, well-rounded ideas.
I think overall it's absolutely worth doing. You find yourself not only being more prepared for, say, well, this next semester, on top of being more prepared for life in general.
I think everyone should take intro to chemistry because the chemistry department here is phenomenal. Everyone I've known has had a good experience with everyone in that department, so I think it's a worthwhile course to take.
What is one class that everyone should take at Lewis and Clark? I really enjoyed education in a complex world. You kind of get to discuss all the issues that exist within education today, and you get to kind of explore that by going to classrooms firsthand and volunteering with children, which I thought was a really wonderful experience.
One class that everybody should take at Lewis and Clark is anything with Kundaicharan, though. I think he definitely changed how I thought about rhetoric and media studies and just education in general.
For me, it was international affairs, just intro to international affairs, because I think it really gives a good perspective on important issues around the world.